tu ngumu na pesa zetu basically.
Ama mwanza kubeba pesa kwa Racksacks. You get back into the 80's.
That's what's gonna start happening. You know, like there's actually a couple of people who've been telling me that that's what they're gonna start doing. You know, like when someone is going, chukua 1,000, pelekea mama yangu, chukua 500, pelekea fulani, or chukua 1,000, nendo ka deposit kwa account yangu, because when it's in the country as cash, then you can do it. And of course, you already know it's illegal to, I think, travel. I think you have to declare.
The 5 million on top of the initial cost of 10 million will now then go around and get another tax, which is capital gains tax, which has then been moved from 10% to 15%. So for that 5 million that you have made, there'll be 15% of it that you have to give back to the taxman.
We're going to go back to Hila, and we want to start this at the most basic level, at a level that involves everyone in the diaspora. And Hila, this is sending money back home, aka remittances. As far as most of us know, money sending apps do not charge us fees. We just send money and people receive it on the other side. Now, how are remittances getting impacted by the finance bill of 2024? Hila.
Thank you. So the proposal that they have on the table right now is to introduce a tax that will require 0.5% of the value of anything that is remitted back into Kenya to be taxed. And that is for both incoming, that's inflow and outflow. And you know, I think one of the biggest issues that I think they're trying and resolve, but they may not necessarily have done it the right way, is to try and ensure that if anyone brings in any cash, it is retained and it circulates within the Kenyan system. So take an example. If today you have $1 million, or rather you have a project that you need to execute and it's about $10 million. So if you perhaps decided that you'll go around and ensure that you'll deliver that money for the project in 5 batches of $2 million, each and every one of those particular batches will attract a 0.5%. So for the first $2 million, there will be $10,000 that will actually be charged as tax. And subsequently, up until you finish all those 5 transactions. So you can then imagine, even before you've actually finished a project and you have had a chance to go around and execute anything, you've had a tax of $10,000 multiplied by 5, which is $50,000. That is not even, you know, any profit in itself. Now, if at some point in time, you were to then say, for example, you're building a resort. If after 2 years, you want to then go around and sell that particular resort and you spent $10 million and you're going to go around and get $15 million for as what you'll actually sell the property for. The 5 million on top of the initial cost of 10 million will now then go around and get another tax, which is capital gains tax, which has then been moved from 10% to 15%. So for that 5 million that you have made, there'll be 15% of it that you have to give back to the taxman. And if you want to then repatriate that money back home on the 15 million, you'll still get another 0.5%. So I think the end game is to try and ensure that any foreign currency that gets into Kenya stays and circulates within there. Is it necessarily the right thing to do? Of course, we've been struggling, particularly in the last 12 months, with a runaway dollar really devaluing the Kenyan shillings. But the one thing that this particular proposal risks is just it contravenes a free market enterprise, because I should have the freedom to put in my $1 million today. If I don't think it's not working in for me, I need to go to Uganda or South Africa, etc. The end game is to actually make it punitive or painful for someone to consider repatriating money out once it's already coming. So as it comes in, 0.5%. As it comes out, 0.5%. If there's actually any residual value that has been gained, the differential of that value gets 15% capital gain. So it still has not been confirmed. They still have until the 30th of June to consider whether that is the right way to deal with it. But for organizations, particularly multinationals who are looking at, repatriating funds and being able to ensure that there's equity, that in itself will be a point of concern. It is not necessarily in line with also all the shuttle diplomacy that the government of Kenya has been doing in the US, in Korea. I think the president is headed to Italy sometime.
He's already there.
He's roaming.
He's already in Italy.
He's roaming
Yes.
already.
Roaming.
He's
Yes.
roaming.
Roaming.
So as we are on a charm offensive, what we're not telling the fellows is that as you actually bring in that money, we'll actually penalize you for getting it out of the economy. And I think that's the end game. The end game is, yes, to actually get the investment, but to retain as much dollar liquidity in the country as possible.
So, Hila, I have a question for you on that. You raised something about multinationals. So, for instance, let's take an organization that currently is doing what I would call NGO type of work. And there is a service that they are providing. And because they are not for profit, what they normally would do is they would go out to sponsors or to people to give grants and so on and so forth. So let's say they're working on providing, I don't know, I'll just say housing for people in Kibera. And that project, is a $10 million project, like you have said. So they source for the money. They're given money from overseas. The money comes in. But as the money comes in, you're saying that they would be charged the, 0.5%. And then if there's any gains from that particular project, say that project then now is turned around and sold, and our housing projects that we are selling now, then they would then get capital gains tax of 15% on that particular property?
That is correct. In its current state of play, they have not been able to go and demarcate if there'll be any waivers on any organization. What they've actually set as a baseline is anyone who remits foreign currency into Kenya will be taxed at 0.5%. That's a proposal that's on the table. So it's basically to try and keep it within the family. And they're not doing it with the intentions of getting it done voluntarily, but they're making it painful.
So that's very punitive for folks who are actually providing a service, especially for the NGOs that come into Kenya to provide services. And I'm just saying, like your USAIDs, your Oxfams, and I was going to say Red Cross, World Education, whatever, those folks who actually are working projects or doing something. It seems like you're pushing these guys out, or they would need to find a different way to channel their money in, maybe work via TZ or something.
So I know for a fact most of the international aid agencies, particularly the ones linked to governments, would have the disbursements of the funds in the operating countries. So say, for example, USAID. USAID is an appendage of the US government.
Correct.
For all the projects that they have in Kenya, they have an office in here. So the money will actually be sent in from the US to the USAID office and then disbursed in Kenya. Now, whether each and every particular disbursement, including any disbursement that is done from one sovereign country to the other, will attract that 0.5%, the jury is still out there. But as it stands right now, anything that is not Kenya shillings coming in will attract 0.5% in the current proposal.
So sisi watu wa diaspora tukae tu ngumu na pesa zetu basically.
Ama mwanze kubeba pesa kwa Racksacks. You get back into the 80's.
That's what's gonna start happening. Like there's actually a couple of people who've been telling me that that's what they're gonna start doing. Like when someone is going, chukua 1,000, pelekea mama yangu. Chukua 500 pelekea fulani, or chukua 1,000 nendo ka deposit kwa account yangu, because when it's in the country as cash, then you can do it. And of course you already know it's illegal to travel. I think you have to declare if you're traveling with more than $10,000.
You have to declare, yes.
Yeah, you have to declare. So I think it's important for people to know that. For those
is
who are
the
doing
10,000 the US or the 10,000 is Kenya?
No,
the
$10,000.
10,000 is the US. I don't know about getting into Kenya, but $10,000 is the US. If you're
Correct.
exiting the any US airport with more than $10,000
in cash,
yes, you need to declare. So I think that's important for people to note.
Man, so am I to assume as well that if we are sending money via our these money wallets or e-wallets, which are basically coming across because it's originating as a dollar, but then it in gears, so is that going to be taxed?
Yes,
yes, because I think what people don't realize about this money sending services, they tell you that it's free. That's what they say.
They do a rate.
But here's the thing. There's a differential between the actual rate and the rate at which they're giving it to you. So this rate now, it's going to become bigger. If it was 3 shillings, it's gonna become 5 shillings. I just did, like some calculations. Like maybe if it cost you, let's say 750 to send 100K, I'm just saying, for example, it might now cost you 770 to send the same 100K. So we will be forking out more money from our bank accounts to send money to Kenya. So I think that's an important it's an important element for people to know, and people pay attention not to the exchange rate that the apps are giving you, but to the actual exchange rate that the market is offering. Because remember, even when the mobile wallet is receiving in Kenya,
correct,
M-Pesa, there's
a fee that they charge. Yes.
There's a fee that they charge.
There's a transaction fee.
When they will receive it, but when they remove it, there's a transaction fee.
There's a transaction fee.
Yes.
For whoever, for
and
that person's wallet. Yes.
I mean, it. So technically, what the proposal was is, if I send Ali money, me I'm hit.
Correct.
Yeah.
Ali ikimfikia akienda kutoa
is hit.
Ana hit.
So, yes.
So there's an agreement.
But he's being hit twice.
He's
being hit for tax as well as the rate
that
for
is
SAFCOM,
the proposal, because what's going to happen. Initially, it was let's say 15% initially. So if I'm sending, because if you've noticed, when you're sending, if you send 100 bob, unaambiwa hapo 27 shillings. Whatever it is, there's a fee depending on the one that you're sending.
Yes.
So that one is gonna go up.
That's gonna go up.
Yes,
that one is gonna go up. But Nisikwe to diaspora, where we don't see fees,
but we won't see it,
and we think that
no, we're gonna get hit, and that is going to is good. It's definitely going to affect the
rate, the exchange rate calculation. It will be
okay. Of course, that one will be hit.
So what costed you $1,000 before is now gonna be like 1,050 or something of that sort.
What? Yeah.